Hello, everyone, and welcome to angelMD's Syndicate presentation for HealthPals. HealthPals is a San Francisco-based startup that has pioneered a new field in digital health, precision prevention, which maps patient data into evidence-based treatments to identify actionable gaps in care and treatment opportunities for large health systems and pharma companies. On the call with us today is angelMD President Dan Parsley to give a little bit more of the background on HealthPals prior to introducing co-founder Rajesh Dash and as well as co-founder and CEO Sushant Shankar to give a presentation on the company. The syndicate leads for this deal are Dr. Michael Kleiger, Dr. Ulu Chedipalli, both of whom are from the Bay Area, as well as Dr. Jack Lewin from New York City. Without further ado, Dan, why don't you go ahead and give an introduction to HealthPals?
Great. Thank you for joining us, and it is my pleasure to introduce HealthPals to the angelMD network and for consideration of investing in our syndicate. I think this company is notable in that it is the very first digital health company that we have presented to our angelMD network. We have been extremely cautious in this space. There's a lot of activity and innovation, but at the end of the day, we are looking for ways to de-risk, obviously, investment opportunities, and we have struggled, candidly, with the likely exit time frame and values with many of the digital health companies that we come across. But we are extremely impressed with HealthPals, and for several reasons. One, they are squarely in one of the hottest spaces in digital health, which is really data-driven precision medicine. And they have combined two extremely capable and experienced co-founders. One, Dr. Raj Dash, who comes from the University of California, San Francisco Medical School. He is on staff at Stanford. He is a cardiologist and has as you will hear here shortly, has a great command on the power of data and how that can really transform and improve the delivery of healthcare. His co-founder, Sushant Shankar, is a data scientist, UC Berkeley and Stanford educated, has deep experience in the Silicon Valley, working for a number of very successful technology companies as their chief science data scientist. And so the combination of these two skill sets and experience bases has really impressed us. Additionally, this company has a great head start on the competition in our view. They have established some very promising relationships that they'll expound on, but mainly carving out an initial space in the cardiology world, where they have a data sharing relationship with the American College of Cardiology. They also just announced a pilot with Microsoft, and I think everyone can read in the press nearly every day about the interest among the big tech companies, mainly the Silicon Valley-based companies, in entering the healthcare space. We think the relationships that HealthPals has, the command of this data science, data-driven precision health, and the relationships that they've already established, makes for a very interesting investment opportunity, and one that we're very pleased to present to our members for consideration. So with no further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Dash and ask him to walk us through the presentation.
Thank you very much, Dan. I really appreciate the introduction. My co-founder, Sushant, is also here with me. And I'd like to thank everyone listening for the opportunity to tell you more about what we're doing at HealthPals and precision prevention. So I'll start with some of our initial slides here. So Dan has already introduced me and my co-founder, Sushant. So why have we generated a tool for precision prevention? Well, the data is pretty clear that clinical decision-making at the point of care is failing. Uh, while most physicians do an excellent job treating the primary complaint of their patient while they're in the room, they typically only have 8 to 10 minutes on average for them to see that patient. And as a result, they may not be able to address the chronic diseases of diabetes, blood pressure, hypertension, high cholesterol, or even cancer screening. And as a result, they miss opportunities to reduce adverse outcomes down the road. The Rand Corporation about 10 years ago taught us that 50% of all medical decisions being made across the board in medical specialties are either wrong or suboptimal based on available evidence. And this is due to a variety of factors, one being the time constraint I just mentioned, but also disconnected patient data, meaning data that's not connected to really any sort of evidence-based guidance, as well as the ever-changing medical guidelines. The evidence itself is changing on an every other year basis often. So these factors are leading to increased rates of bad outcomes, higher mortality, and higher cost. At HealthPals, we believe precision prevention is the best way to fix these errors. HealthPals provides an automated, personalized, and evidence-based decision platform that helps improve outcomes and reduce mortality and cost. The value that we provide is first and foremost to life science companies, where we can achieve targeted drug and technology adoption visualization and optimization strategies. And in these 4 pillars, we can provide evidence-based, value-focused prescribing patterns to these companies. We can help them improve the adoption of their class-leading drugs. We can help them optimize sales and marketing strategies, as well as perform virtual clinical trial design and endpoint selection, all of which are top of mind priorities for CEOs of the big pharma companies to date. In addition, we provide a lot of value to health systems. We provide actionable, evidence-based population management to those systems, and as a result, help them reduce practice variability, reduce their operational costs, improve adherence to both external and internal treatment protocols, and improve overall their clinical outcomes. This is a large and growing market. Already, pharma and value-based providers are spending a total of around $3 billion on precision prevention, and there is a big opportunity for growth in both of these sectors that HealthPals is poised to capitalize on. The solution that we've developed is called Klindt, which is short for clinical intelligence. Basically, if you are a hospital administrator of a health system or a chief medical or operating officer of a life science company, you may have access to, either through your health system or by purchasing data, lots of patient data that has very little context or instructions on how to make things better. Our platform, Klindt, ingests that patient data, often de-identified, and applies codified medical guidelines, which we have put into our platform covering all of preventive medicine for primary care and beyond, to produce 2 major outputs. The first is a prescriptive output, where we are able to map that patient data to the latest medical evidence and produce a checklist for each individual patient of the evidence-based guidelines that apply to that patient's management, and then we can scale that individual to an entire population or health system to provide a population management tool for administration that they can then point or push down to the point of care on their end. In addition, with the data partnership that Dan mentioned with the American College of Cardiology, we have a unique access to the largest cardiometabolic data registry in the world, over 200 million patient life years of medical outcomes, pharmacy, and medical records that allows us to find patients like the individual you may be treating to perform a predictive analysis to say, what are the best evidence-based treatments for this individual or risk segment of your population based on patients like them. So we cover a whole host of medical domains, as you can see here, beginning with the cardiometabolic space, but expanding rapidly outward to adjacent comorbidities, including ethnicity lenses and social determinants of health. And as I mentioned, with our 200 million patient life years of data and IP filed in this field, we can actually optimize those treatments. Let me show you an example of this platform in action, the demonstration. Exit the show here. So on your screen now, you should be seeing the dashboard that is generated by an administrator or chief medical officer at a life science company, where you may have a large number of clinics or clinical sites from which you can draw data. Our platform is intended to be able to refine that patient selection process to only those patients that you care most to explore. You can choose which clinic, from which cities, and even which specialties within those clinics, and even the types of patients, the diabetics, the dyslipidemics, the hypertensive patients, for instance. You can also dial in social determinants of health and other demographic specifics as you wish. Once you've selected your patients, you can then select the evidence that you want applied to those patients' data. It may be the American College of Cardiology, or if you're in Europe, you may choose the European Society of Cardiology, and you can simply toggle on and off the different societies' guidelines that you want to be applied to your patient data. And most importantly, every customer that we engage with has a unique custom protocol that they would like applied to their patient data, whether it's an internal quality threshold that they wish to achieve, or some other clinical protocol that they believe they want all of their providers to adhere to. So you can customize that within our platform within a matter of weeks to generate all of the content and evidence that you want applied to your patient data. Once you have defined the patient cohort and the evidence that you want applied to their data, you can then generate this dashboard. This dashboard summarizes the patients that you've selected here in the top panel, and you've narrowed down a 15,000 patient population down to about 1,900 here. And you see the following distribution of patients in terms of their 10-year risk of heart attack or stroke. This could also be their cholesterol levels, their diabetes control, it could be their blood pressure as well. Whichever parameters you wish can be plotted here, but more importantly, their data has been mapped into the guidelines, and you see now 5 different types of medication care gaps, where about 1,000 patients should be on aspirin per the guidelines, but only about half are. Similarly, about 1,500 patients should be on metformin, but only 1,100 are. This could also be referral gaps in your system to specialists that haven't yet been ordered for these patients. Shown below are the performances of each of the clinical sites that you selected, and you can even toggle their performance amongst referrals as well as medication gaps. But as you drill down into a single care center, you've narrowed your population down even further. You can see the care gaps of that care center, and more importantly, you can perform a machine learning predictive layer of analysis on the impact of actually going ahead and closing all of these care gaps, filling those prescriptions, actually making those referrals for those indicated patients, and how that may shift the risk of your population to the left accordingly. These are not actual patient names, but these are placed here to show the power of how this population management platform can drill down to the point of care immediately. If we enter into one patient's profile, this is a 49-year-old Indian woman, and you can see that her overall risk of having a heart attack in the next 10 years is about 6%. This is moderate, and you can see that she has 5 risk factors, all contributing to this 6% number, and 2 of them are risk factors that she cannot change, her ethnicity and her family history. She has 3 risk factors she can change, and in fact, if she were to have a lower cholesterol level, she would actually be a low-risk patient. Similarly, her systolic blood pressure is elevated and also has a significant impact on her overall risk, but her body weight doesn't have as much of an impact relatively on her heart disease risk as the other 2 risk factors. Therefore, you can generate prioritized intervention lists based upon the relative impact of each intervention on an individual's risk and scale that to a population level. You can track this individual patient over time and see the rise and fall in her risk levels as interventions have been made in her medical care. And you can even see where gaps have been completely closed, as they have been for medications, despite having still some open opportunities to reduce her risk from the lifestyle, workup, and referral standpoint. You can get more detailed if you wish to see where did these recommendations come from, which society, how strong was the level of evidence for each recommendation, and you can even see that our platform has layered in ethnicity lenses that would actually show that her body mass index target is only 23, not 25. And as a result, she needs to lose more weight to be in compliance based on the World Health Organization recommendation for people of Indian ethnicity. This might also be manifest in a Japanese patient where a lower dose statin might be recommended, or an African American patient where an ACE inhibitor might not be recommended as a first line treatment for blood pressure, but rather a calcium channel blocker. So our platform is able to layer in social determinants of health and ethnicity lenses into this visualization. Once you have all of this information at your disposal, many clinicians want a take-home message. And so we generate a report from this that is really intended to summarize the findings of the analysis. For a pharmaceutical company, they would be extremely focused, focusing on one region of the country perhaps, and only diabetic and hypertensive patients, and looking only at one treatment class, oral hypoglycemic agents, and their particular drug of interest. And so what this report would tell them is the opportunity to actually prescribe the medication that they manufacture in that population, and where is the greenfield opportunity, and how many patients meet criteria for their medication and are on their medication versus a competitor's medication, and what would be the actual impact of actually giving those medications to those patients in terms of reduction of heart attacks or strokes, specifically with a parameter called number needed to treat, which is published from clinical trial data. You can actually project a reduction events over a 5-year period, for instance, and show that here. More importantly, though, we can actually mine the data partnership with the American College of Cardiology to generate real-world NNT values for those same medications to show what a health system should reasonably expect in the real world with usage of that drug. In addition, we can actually track with pharmacy data the relative contribution of physician-induced gaps in care versus patient-induced gaps of care. Did the patient ever pick up a prescription, or did the physician fail to prescribe it in the first place? This is another way that a pharmaceutical company or a health system can identify opportunities to improve overall outcomes. And lastly, we can use our AI engine to start predicting the impact over time in terms of the reduction in events, as I mentioned, but also which segments of the prescribing population need to be educated on the evidence that supports use of that drug, and where is the biggest market opportunity for those companies moving forward. So, going back to the slide deck here. Yeah, want to briefly talk about one of the differentiating features of the platform, which is our data science and data science team. So I'll let Sushant explain this part of the platform.
Thanks, Raj. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into some of the AI capabilities. So one of the things that we have, we'll talk a little bit more about is in the ACC partnership, is access to lots of data, in particular longitudinal data. And this is important because you can actually track a patient's medical state across multiple encounters. And what you can look at is you can say, what is the state of the patient when they came in? What were the actions that were prescribed by the clinician? And then what is the change between these states? Now, when you have a lot of these patients, you can start to ask, what should be the action or the set of actions given what the patient presents today and their historical record? And the way we can answer this question is you can actually use this data to say, we've seen many of these states before, or these kinds of states, and you can say what actually ended up working when certain actions were done. So you can actually say for any given state, what are the optimal, the best set of actions to achieve this desired state? And these are the exact kinds of insights, the predictive insights, that are packaged along with the prescriptive insights into multiple formats and as an insights as a service. So you saw a report and dashboard that Raj presented. So one of the things that we can do with this is in talking about our go-to market is as we collect more of this data, more of this longitudinal patient data, the insights we can actually drive become stronger and stronger. So right now, we have about at the end of this year, we'll have 200 million patient life years of data. It's about 20 million patients across about 10 years, primarily US based. Um, and As we look for future opportunities with other tech companies, we expect to grow that to much larger, to 1 billion patient life years. With this, we can actually uh, drive insights. We currently have a deal with Facebook to deploy Klindt to their efforts, their foray into healthcare. We're also working with American College of Cardiology's existing customers like BI and AstraZeneca to deploy this in their systems.
In
So Raj,
addition, we have a really exciting new application of Klindt at a greater scale than any of the prior mentioned opportunities. I've just recently come back from a 10-day tour in Asia, and our whole team was actually in Australia in February exploring an instrument called social impact bonds, in which government or single payer health systems, which are bearing the full load of risk for patients having strokes and heart attacks in their countries, are fully incentivized to reduce their spend on those chronic conditions and adverse outcomes while still improving outcomes. And we believe we can provide that solution to them from a technological standpoint. In these social impact bonds, private equity is being used to fund the deployment of technology at no cost to the government up front. And over 5 years, that deployment and the savings realized by the government health system is used to pay back those investors in their return, as well as a bonus payment to the technology companies, but we're paid up front for those services for 5 years. We've submitted already one RFP in Australia and the state of Victoria for deployment across that state, and are now exploring opportunities in Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, and 3 areas of India, all of which are sizable deals and multi-year deals that will show the scale of this platform at its fullest. So we're very excited about those opportunities. In terms of the American College of Cardiology, on the left side of the screen, not only are we a data partner of the American College of Cardiology, but we are finalizing the details of a business partnership with them as well, where we will co-develop, co-market, and co-sell a product to their life science companies that they already are in contract with, but currently don't provide actual insights to and analytics on that data, and also to potentially embed our software as their primary reporting mechanism for all of their registry data, which is the largest in the world, as I mentioned. And then lastly, we have engaged with Facebook, as we mentioned, as a technology company, but we really believe that there's an even greater opportunity with technology companies down the road with our platform. So right now, we are in the middle of raising a seed extension round on a safe note with a $10 million valuation cap. This is intended to give us 18 months of runway to scale to 20 million patients, 200 million patient life years, build our team out, develop our product, and generate some of our first large deals on this platform, and eventually to scale to a Series A where we would have achieving a global network of tech, life science companies, and government health systems. The most analogous company to HealthPals, in our view, is Flatiron. Flatiron uses clinical trial evidence and patient data in order to identify optimal treatments in the oncology space. They were acquired almost 2 years ago by Roche, and with the interest that we're receiving from the technology companies listed above, uh, and the movement in this space with players like Amazon acquiring Glimpse quickly to help with their healthcare endeavors, and also Facebook, which we're also working with and have recently signed a contract with for utilization of Klindt and their interest in healthcare. We're optimistic, especially when these technology companies are hiring executives who are familiar with companies in this space, as noted here on this slide. So with that, I'll close and take any questions. And thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. Great presentation. I have a few quick questions here, but then a note for anyone watching this later. There's a box here on the side of the Syndicate page that says ask a question with a button to either click a link to send an email or a phone number that you can call. Feel free to click that at any time. It'll come to my team, and we will either relay it to the HealthPals folks if it is a question about their company, or if it's a question about angelMD and how our syndicates work, I am happy to get those answers to you as well. First question we have for you: as a medical patient of a hospital using this system, how would they benefit and interact with the physician differently?
So as a patient within a health system, one of the biggest fears that I think patients have expressed, in my experience as a physician, is there's a lot of information available to them, but they don't know which information is trusted and whether they're getting the best evidence-based treatments for their conditions. With HealthPals, our intent is to close that gap at the provider level to make sure that every provider has in front of them a checklist that shows them exactly which evidence-based medical decisions apply to each individual patient. And so for a patient, the reassurance is that their providers are getting that information. And when we started the company, we actually generated a patient app to communicate uh, the same care plan to the patient. However, what we also realized is that that's not our core competency, and there are many excellent patient engagement tools that our platform's insights can plug into. And so we envision an ecosystem that can close that loop eventually, that you could actually also communicate this directly to the patient.
Perfect. Thank you. Second question for you. Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, they're all pursuing a piece of the growing healthcare market. Why would these companies specifically be interested in HealthPals as opposed to a pharmaceutical company or a healthcare system?
So what we are seeing is a remarkable entry of the major technology companies into healthcare, each bringing with it a unique advantage or a unique data stream. With Facebook, it's social media data. With Google, it's search engine history and all of the information they know about their users. With Apple, it's devices and that platform. And so what they don't have, and this is not my opinion, but based on direct conversations with several of these companies, is they don't have an engine that applies evidence-based medicine to real-world clinical data and simulates the impact of having an additional data stream, or can simulate the impact of having an additional non-medical almost data stream to supplement the clinical data and the evidence that should drive it. And so the combination of the HealthPals real-world clinical data, the Klindt engine with evidence-based guidelines applied to that data, and the modeling as well as the real-world application of a new data stream like social media or search engine history, or a connectedness like Glimpse to a patient's edge device, is unique. And that's where that interest has fallen, and we've received a significant amount of interest from those companies as a result, and which is a unique value proposition to the pharmaceutical industry, which certainly also appears to be interested.
Thank you. Next question. And access to large hospital systems is a notoriously difficult process, and they're often slow to adopt. They've had rough experiences with platforms like Epic, and the thought of adding more to their sphere can be potentially daunting. How dependent will you be on this source of revenue, and how can you accelerate adoption rates?
Yeah, so good question, John. So the if we look at this go-to-market diagram, we look at our immediate revenue streams in two places. One is tech companies who are who have a rush to get into healthcare in different ways, as Raja explained, and second, pharma companies. However, we're seeing some interest in with health systems, and we would go at it from two different approaches. One is with American College of Cardiology, which Raj can give some more context on. And second, with government health systems who are single payer systems. So they're integrated between the payer and the hospital system, and most of these are international.
So with the American College of Cardiology, the business partnership is unique. In terms of co-marketing and co-developing a product, they already integrate with almost 2,500 health systems within the US and beyond. And they also have ongoing active contracts with several dozen life science companies. And we are excited to be a partner of theirs because they're a unique and really class-leading channel partner that HealthPals now has in terms of entry points into those health systems. Those health systems, for their inpatient registries, are paying significant amounts of money on a monthly basis to ACC simply to have their data recorded and reported back to them. The opportunity to be a reporting technology service for the ACC, and the exclusive one potentially, is going to generate significant amount of revenue for the company over time. And with the life science companies, those data agreements that ACC has are ranging between 500,000 to 3.5 million just for data, not for any insights. And so there's a significant opportunity to increase the ASP of those contracts with ACC by adding the added value of HealthPals, and for HealthPals to then over time develop our own relationships with these companies to upsell to more advanced machine learning and AI insights for their optimal product deployments.
Perfect, thank you. And that's all the questions we have for now. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up by simply saying that this investment will be live. We will be accepting commitments through the middle of November 2018. The minimum investment for this syndicate is $10,000. In order to invest, you must be an accredited investor based upon US accreditation standards. For more information on how that investment works, it can be found under the How to Invest section of angelMD.co. Once again, if you do have any questions about this, please feel free to give me a call anytime. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.